Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review for the Blacklist Season 9, Episode 12, The Chairman. Thanks to everybody for being patient out there. I know we're a couple of days behind. A blacklister, a very nefarious blacklister, decided they were going to try to poison some of my food
Oh,
and give me bad ham. And so I'm doing better now. Everything is fine. Thank you for the concern.
yes, and thank you for everyone who was asking where the video was. I just want to put out a reminder to everybody, and also just for those of you who don't know, on our main page of our YouTube channel, up at the right underneath the banner, there's like it says home, videos, and community. There's a community tab there. So if you click on that, it's where we'll post announcements. So at the end of each month, we'll like put all our videos that we're doing for the
Yeah.
next month and what days you should expect videos. If there's ever something like this that happens again, we posted this on Friday on the
Yeah.
community tab that Matt was sick and that we were going to have this video up today. But just for those of you who didn't know that that community tab was there, you can always find something there with us. If we like to be pretty consistent, we
Yeah.
typically are. So if something is awry, we'll post a note there for you guys, so you can always find out what's going on. We won't let you down.
Well, and now we will dive into the night market, which you guys just couldn't call it the black market. You had to come up with something else for this. But,
Yeah.
hit that subscribe button because we have more reviews, previews, theories, all sorts of other good stuff on the Blacklist. It's a very busy day at the channel as well. We are talking about Killing Eve, Power
Yeah.
Book 4 Force. So
Yeah.
check those shows out and check those reviews out as well.
And follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We got new picture up of Coco Chanel Vanderwip, who went to the duck pond yesterday for the first time.
She had herself a good day.
Yes, she did.
She did not get food poisoned by a blacklister.
No.
She is in good shape.
She's
But
in good shape.
okay, let's start with I think everybody's just continued confusion about the tracker. Okay, this is the thing. We know that the tracker was on Liz. This episode confirms that the tracker was on Liz. We don't have to have any sort of further theories or speculation about all of that. It was there.
Yeah, and it was in Liz, so she ingested it, and there was some sort of it would set off once it was in her stomach, and the enzymes in her stomach would, set it off. I found it a bit strange, just that in the last episode, no one knew where the tracker was. Was it, put in her casket? Was it put on her clothes that she was buried in?
Yeah.
Was it in a piece of jewelry? Was it already in her? Nobody knew. But this episode, they already knew before she was exhumed. They were like, it's in her. How? Where was that line of dialogue? I'm laughing because we just spent so
I
much
know.
time trying to figure out could it have just been dropped in the grave? And it's like, nah, it's in her. We knew. How?
Don't worry, at the start of the next episode, they're going to tell us actually who put the tracker in, and they're also not going to tell us how they figured that part of it out either. No, the who of it all, I think, is the part that they're probably putting most of their effort into, even though, yeah, they didn't offer any explanation at all for that part of it. And the who part of it, it is still as confusing as it has ever been, because they spent all this time in this episode basically suggesting that this particular tracker is on some next level cutting edge that nobody really has. It took a long time. Aram is still working on it as we're speaking at this very moment. So it's not exactly like this is something a lower level criminal could have access to.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully this is going to continue to bring a bigger mystery, and it isn't just, going to be tied into Townsend, because it feels like we've all moved on from that many episodes later here. So, yeah, it could be really opening up a big new mystery, which I think, we all want.
I'm a little bit worried about my Panna Baker is responsible theory right now, just because it's
She's got money. She's got influence.
does she have a tracker guy?
It's starting to kill my Marvin theory here, unless he's the big investor behind, everything that's going on with Reddington. So yeah, with the night market, he really was part of this to find out who is buying up shares in his company because he doesn't even own his own company anymore. There's one big investor behind all of it. Is it Marvin? Now I don't think so.
Well, here's the funniest thing about all this is that I was watching it and I was actually thinking, oh, the Marvin theory makes more sense to me than it has. Like,
he would have to, he doesn't have the money to do something like that. He'd have to be stealing Reddington's money at like a crazy rate that Reddington would notice to be able to buy up shares. Like, it's now kind of like, I don't know.
It's difficult because it is a situation where whoever knew and had the foresight to do this with Reddington would have had to know, okay, Reddington is coming back into the criminal world at this point. He is using this because he needs this. So it's somebody who has like an intimate knowledge of Reddington's inner circle. And I think in that way, the Marvin thing appeals to me. However, you are also correct that we do not know where Marvin does not strike me that he is riding across town in a Rolls Royce or anything like that.
Yeah, where's the money coming from, Marvin? Like, where are you getting it from, Marvin? There has to be somebody who's bankrolling him at that point. Like, it's just, I think Reddington would notice if that kind of money was missing, and Marvin doesn't have that kind of money. So if Marvin's involved, he's got to have a partner who's got deep, deep pockets.
Okay, and this is about to get truly crazy. And listen, it's been a little while since I feel like we've gone truly crazy in some of these Blacklist videos, so I feel like it's okay we do it now.
All right, here we go.
What if the person who is bankrolling a lot of this at this point is the real Katerina Rostova? And
okay,
the
is
reason
that ham still affecting
No,
you?
okay, no, the ham is gone. No, we're not talking about the ham anymore. But okay, let's roll with this for a moment. So, Liz is dead. Katerina Rostova, eventually, we know if she's not Reddington, we know there's all those theories out there, but if she's off somewhere in this world, sort of just having eyes and ears on everything, she's obviously going to figure out what happened with Liz. She's obviously going to be desperate to get answers in some shape or form. If there is a way for Katerina to kind of be in the know of everything, she's going to want to know what's going on with Reddington. How is she going to figure that out? Maybe by finding a way to control part of Reddington's empire. The obvious big problems with all of this are, number one, we don't know if Katerina is still out there or not. Mm-hmm. Number two, we do not even know if Katerina has any sort of money at all. There has been no explanation for all of that. Here is why I am grasping at straws. Nothing makes sense. And that is just the truth of it. Panabaker's a senator, but it's not like senators make, $1 trillion unless they are like taking money from lobbyists and other like corrupt people like left and right. What is that?
That's right. That's why I'm starting to feel like your theory is, more plausible because whoever is this investor has to have deep pockets or access to influence and deep pockets. And who has that? Panabaker. Like, she could be taking some side money here or there. I know she likes to say that she's above the board or whatever, but that doesn't mean she is.
The only thing that gives me hope that my Panabaker theory may still be alive beyond all of this is that I think she's going to be back on the show in a couple of episodes. So hopefully that can give us even just like the tiniest of crumbs. I will literally take anything at this point, but it's a good, compelling mystery right now as to what's going on. I think it always works well from the standpoint of we want to have something to think about when it comes to the Blacklist, but here is the real trade-off. It's almost like everything else they've done over the years, including Reddington's identity. They better have an explanation that makes sense. And that is the hard part of this right now, because we're talking about a very limited group of people who could have planted this tracker in the first place, let alone all the money and resources it would have taken.
So we also have everything that's going on with Cooper.
Yes.
And this conversation at the end of this episode with Cooper and Reddington, where Reddington admits to Cooper somebody is, basically controlling my business and it ain't great. Like, some things are not going that well for me. And
yeah.
we saw Cooper try to open up a little bit about the blackmail and what's going on without saying anything really. And I really wish that he had just taken that leap of faith at that point to just say, listen, this is what's happening to me. I have gone down this path and done some things I'm already, are riding the line or a little over the line.
Yeah.
Can you help? I just feel like the two of them have such a respect for each other, and they've known each other a long time. And just if what the way that Reddington had sort of explained it to him and was like, listen, I am on the bad side of this line. I know that I've done some bad things, and this is where I am, and I'm okay on this side of the line, but you can't be on this side of the line. You're a good guy. Just go home and sleep it off. I was kind of like, well, then you need to help. There has to, you can't just have Cooper come to him and basically be like, hey, I'm going down this dark path because something's happening to me. Going home and having a good sleep is not going to help. But Reddington kind of, he needs to step in and help, but then Cooper needs to tell him what's going on. But I did love the moment where he was like, go home to your kid.
It was very, very sweet. And
it was so sweet.
This was like, a great Cooper episode. Like, I think we both love the Cooper and Reddington scenes so much.
Yes.
They had so many, I think, good interactions here. And these two, you've spelled it out. Like, I don't want to say that they love each other, but I think they have.
I think they do. I think they have a love for each other.
I think they do, intensely respect each other, and they do care for each other. Yes. And they may not admit it, but they have known each other in some shape or form for such a long, long time. I mean, you can date all the way back to that Kuwait episode. There's a lot between these two. And I think ultimately, yes, Reddington may take advantage of the task force almost every single episode to pursue his own goals. But in the process of that, he's never trying to hurt Cooper. He's never trying to have Cooper be dead. I think Reddington could help him, and I think Cooper honestly needs the help at this point, because we're not really getting that much further other than that this blackmailer is asking Cooper to do more and more things, and he's basically just got him, and there's nothing Cooper can do to escape.
And Cooper is Agnes's guardian.
Yeah.
Reddington will do whatever it takes to make sure that Cooper is okay. And I think that's this conversation was very clear to me of one of the reasons why Reddington hasn't done anything to try to be Agnes's guardian himself, where he does see Cooper as a good man and giving Agnes a good life. And I think he wants that for Agnes in a way that he may not feel right now that he can give. He's in such just a dark place. Some of the things he was saying in this episode, I was like, this is a man battling grief.
Yeah.
When he said Liz doesn't exist anymore, I was like, ooh, you are feeling it. It's really, really tough, this whole we're going to exhume her body. Funerals are very important for a lot of people. It is a way to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Having the gravestone to be able to go to as a way to continue on past death, people still exist. Reddington is hurting, which is why he's saying things like this. The body still exists. She is still there. She is still in your heart. She's still in your memory. She is still there physically. You can still go and speak to her like Wrestler has, like we saw Cooper has. It's very much an episode that tells people all these different ways that people are dealing with grief and exhuming a body, how, it can affect somebody in a really bad way. When Wrestler found out, and the first thing he did, he grabbed his drugs. He didn't take them, but he grabbed them. And it's just, people go through funerals and these services in different ways, and it can help some people, but it can't help everyone.
I think the thing that this episode did the best, and, it's fun to obviously dive into the Katarina is still out there theories and all of that, but I think this episode was written with a lot of care sort of for people who have watched this show for a really long time, because Reddington's whole as you mentioned, the very, very cold Liz does not exist anymore scene. It was so startling, and I think a lot of it is because I still remember everything Reddington said after Glenn died and how moving a lot of that stuff was. And it felt like a very different person in a way than the Reddington that we saw talking about Liz. And I think that was just a brilliant way for them to express, okay, this is how much Liz meant to him, that it has affected him and his philosophy on life and death this much. And then, with Wrestler, we have a reminder of, okay, this is how he is dealing with grief. We saw Cooper sort of understand it. Okay, my grief is important, but so is Agnes sort of understanding fully what happened to her mother. So I'm trying to put some of my own emotions to the side. And I think it was a very just well done portrait of how no one grieves the same way. And I think for Agnes, she's going to be kind of going through this process forever. I mean, we saw at the end of this episode, Cooper starting to sort of tell her more and more about her mom and sort of the world that she was mixed up in and everything that was going on.
And also just not only how people all grieve differently, but that people can grieve differently for different people. Like you said, what happened with Glenn, how it was, it affected him very deeply, and he was able to sort of express a bit more how he was feeling with it, to now how he's dealing with his grief with Liz and how it's hit him in a different spot. And I think that that's something that's almost never talked about on TV. So I have to give the Blacklist a lot of credit for showing all the different ways that grief can affect somebody and affect somebody differently with different people. But the stuff with Agnes at the end, I think it was just such a show of love that Cooper put aside how he's dealing with his grief, and he clearly is going to Liz's grave and talking to her as well. It is also something that he does to be able to deal with his grief, and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put that aside because Agnes is number one, and that's what a good caregiver does.
Yes, and he clearly he loved Liz, he loves Agnes, he wants Agnes to feel like she has some sense of closure to her life. I think he's also realizing that, Liz spent the better part of her adult life desperately seeking something. Yes. And I think he probably doesn't want that for Agnes as well. And it's another example of the writers really taking care in this episode. This freaking bunny that, the bunny was just so far gone. And now, of course, we get to bring back the bunny and the fulcrum. And I'm not going to get back into just how darn frustrated I was by that fulcrum so many freaking years ago. But it's just like, okay, it's nice that you guys are still remembering these little things about years past and connecting them to the present. And I do really appreciate that.
Yeah, I really also appreciate that idea that Agnes is going to have answers. She's not going to end up in the same road as her mom, looking for answers to the point that she ended up dead for it.
Yeah, that's just a very, very hard fate.
But it was also good to know that her body's in the grave. So that's the end of that. That theory that she's still out there, still alive, that's not a thing anymore. No. She was there.
No, I'm happy with that. We don't need another Liz is faking her own death thing. I'm fine.
She's already done that.
No, I think overall this is I really liked this episode a lot. I think it did a lot of things very, very effectively. Yeah. I thought the Blacklister storyline by and large was interesting enough. Like, my only big sort of complaint from all of it was just like, we're 9 seasons into the show, and this really felt like, how is it that we have not heard about the night market before now? Like, every now and then they pluck out these blacklisters that are just sort of like so supposedly important to the criminal underworld, and yet nobody has ever mentioned and nobody has ever talked about them. How did they exist before this very moment?
Yeah, and there were some things in it that I was a little bit okay when he's talking about, oh, you signed this contract that you can basically have your fingers chopped off. I'm like, that's not going to hold up in any court of law. This is like an illegal contract. You can't, this will never hold up. She doesn't actually need to have her finger, oh, you signed this. Take me to court over that. I dare you.
There's so many jokes that I want to make about the night market, but I am also just picturing in my head what the comment section will be like if I make those jokes. So I'm not going to do it. And I'm just going to say this was a very good episode.
Yeah, it was good.
I'm really excited to see where they go from here. So hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any more reviews, previews, other great stuff on the Blacklist. Follow us on Instagram at Jess TV, and we will see you here next time.